was Survey India. I want to talk about geospatial technologies in general. My topic is going to be a little bit beyond just survey, because I believe that geospatial technologies is at the same place where IT was 20 years ago. I don't know whether you guys remember, but 20 years ago when IT was new, it required specialists. They were called computer scientists. And today, an 18-year-old guy can write an app and then becomes an instant millionaire. Every day in the morning when I read Economic Times, I hear about how many startups have gotten funding, based on, and these are like serial entrepreneurs. They write an app, they make money, and they write more apps. So they are no longer computer scientists. It has become more like a crowdsourcing phenomenon, right? Geospatial technology is probably at the same level, where it requires professionals with specialized skill sets and tools to collect data and then disseminate it to the various industries and for others to consume. I think that paradigm is going to change. I hope it's not 20 years, because we need these new geospatial technologies to be evolving, to be adopted much faster for developing economies like ours. But I'm hoping in the next 10 years, we'll have more crowdsourced geospatial data and data management than what we are seeing today, much more. So that's basically the crux of my presentation. So there are various forces that are at work today. Technology is one. I talked about various applications. If you look at industries, there are various kinds of new roles that are emerging, analytics scientists, data scientists, et cetera, et cetera. The economies in the world are evolving. We have very large, big emerging markets coming into play: China, India, Brazil, Russia, and so on. And these are going to be very large economies in the future. There's a lot of societal forces that are at work. Talk about environment. Everybody, including the small little kid, when I was growing up, we never really looked at the environment as a major consideration. But today, if you go to any school, there is a big, emphasis being laid on being environmentally conscious. So there are a lot of societal forces that are coming into play. Education, healthcare, things that we never really, paid a lot of attention to before. We are now paying a lot of attention. Conservation, carbon footprint, and so on and so forth. I believe that geospatial technology is going to kind of overlap with all these emerging, drivers or forces that we are seeing today. So I believe that geospatial technologies and thereby information and knowledge is going to be at the centerpiece of this. And there are a lot of characteristics that are driving this change, So I'm just trying to give you our view, Trimble's view of where this thing is headed. There's a fundamental paradigm shift that is happening. If you go through walk through the booths, you will see that there is the traditional, the total station, the handheld, and the GNSS receivers. But you'll also see new technologies such as the drone, such as the mobile LiDAR systems. You will see new ways in which data can be collected very, very efficiently and very, very fast, including 3D, 360 degrees cameras and so on. So there is a paradigm shift that is happening that we need to be cognizant of. Technology is evolving so fast, it's no longer theodolites and total station that are going to be seen in the next 5 to 10 years, but there is a whole new host of technologies that are coming. Crowdsourcing is one. Using the cell phone, what started out as a way to communicate verbally, today, nobody looks at anybody else if you're traveling in a bus or a metro or an airplane. Everybody is glued to their smartphones, and they are constantly sending and receiving data and WhatsApp messages and Facebook. In fact, I tell today's kids that they will stop talking soon, and they'll be WhatsApping more often than not, and that's already happening. Some of it is good and some of it is bad, but there is a paradigm shift happening. There's a lot of what I call as incremental adjacency. So what that means is there are a lot of areas where at a relatively low investment, you can apply these geospatial technologies. So Trimble, if I ask for a raise of hands, how many of you know Trimble as a traditional GPS company? Most of you will raise your hand. But if I say, how many of you think of Trimble as a workflow transformation company, you will think that I'm talking a lot of nonsense, gibberish, etc. But that is what we are becoming. We are becoming a workflow transformation company because of these adjacencies. We are applying geospatial technology in agriculture, mining, forestry, road transportation, package delivery, healthcare, you name it, right? So there is a lot of adjacencies that are coming into place. So that's something we need to be aware of. Again, same thing as IT. When I first started in IT, we were coding in mini computers and specialized, as I said, computer scientists sitting in air-conditioned rooms. Today, IT is ubiquitous. You can't get away from IT even if you want to, right? So that's what is happening. It has pervaded every adjacency, every field. So that is going to happen to geospatial technologies. Emerging economies, we all know the success of wireless industry in India. I don't know how many of you remember, it used to take, 3, 4, 5 years to get a telephone line. I remember if the father applies, maybe the son will get it, the phone line. If I tell that to my son or daughter, and they will laugh they do laugh at me a lot, but this will be one additional point where they will laugh at me for, right? If I say you have to wait for 10 years, and the lineman will come and pull a specialized wire, he will break the wall, and he will insert something, etc., etc. But we have leapfrogged to wireless technology and WiMAX and so on and so forth. In fact, fiber too, right? So nobody talks about copper in the ground or aluminum in the ground or whatever. So similarly, emerging economies will drive the leapfrogging of geospatial technologies. And the technology itself is evolving very fast. Today, you can, I tried it this morning in Bangalore, it didn't work, but you can sit in the car with your smartphone, you can communicate with anyone in the world in an instant. Wireless, software, and so on. Add to that, accurate positioning. Positioning technologies are evolving at a very fast rate. In fact, I have a slide which says that I can collect up to 200 plus billion points in a cloud in 3D in an hour. 216 billion points, right? Using 3D cameras and 360 degrees cameras, LiDAR technology, and so on. That is mind-boggling. So I can basically, in a single hour, collect as much data as probably the entire 100 years of geospatial data points that we have collected in an hour. So that is the way technology is enabling. And believe me, at this rate, we can probably map the entire world in 3D up to accuracy of 5 centimeters or below. Okay? Everybody's talking about a 3D enabled world. China is talking about digital China. We are talking about digital India, where everything is going to be 3D mapped and so on. That is going to happen. That is going to become a reality. Okay, so this is what I was referring to. Using things like mobile mapping, aerial mapping, drones, 3D cameras, I can today collect points really fast at very, very high accuracy. So for example, in mining applications, traditionally we used to use scanners that used to take hours to scan a mine wall or a mine pile for volumetric calculation. That's not the case today. I can fly a drone and collect that information in 45 minutes and provide a real-time report every week or so to the mine owner on volumetric calculation. And believe me, that's going to only increase. So here is an example where this area called Fall River, we are doing a 3D point cloud mapping in real time. We can do a real-time walkthrough and identify all the assets where things need to be repaired, where things are failing, how the neighborhood is changing for city planning, etc. I mean, this is rich 3D information. Similarly, for a road that is going to be expanded, we can have this kind of information in a jiffy. What used to collect surveyors, months, is now happening in hours and minutes. I only wish the Bangalore roads were as empty as this. This morning it took me 2.25 hours to come from the airport. But hopefully with new infrastructure being built, we will get to see that. So the point is, data collection is becoming very, very ubiquitous. There are various sources for data collection. It doesn't have to be traditional techniques. Now what happens is, it used to be the case that data is collected and then handed off. Not the case today, not the case going forward. Data has to be collected, but the most important thing is it has to be sent almost in real time to all the stakeholders. We are talking a lot about smart cities. For smart cities to happen, geospatial technologies have to be an integral part of smart cities development. Citizens and government officials, other stakeholders have to get data in real time. And the way that's going to happen is, you've got to be able to disseminate the data using our broadband infrastructure, using our fast data collection methods. Not only that, we have to lay a lot of emphasis on data management, because there's going to be a lot of data that is not going to be useful, and there is some data that's going to be useful. So in real time, you've got to separate the chaff from the grain and present the data to the various stakeholders in the format, in the language that they understand. So for example, if you have a contractor that wants to get real-time data on how his various machines are working in the project, he needs that information from the same database where a citizen would like to know, when is that road pavement going to be finished, right? So that I don't have to drive there with a lot of potholes. And similarly, fleet management. Similarly, government officials need to know how many projects are at what stage and so on and so forth. What is the cost? What is the time? Et cetera, et cetera. So really, using an enterprise application, you need to be able to disseminate data in real time. And what this results in is in greater productivity, less cost, less time. We all know how technology can help drive transparency, drive the cost down, drive the quality up, and so on. So I think geospatial technology, we are used to IT. Today, if you go to the railway reservation, nobody talks about paper and filling forms and so on. Everybody does it online. Just a very good example. Tomorrow, we need to be able to do governance, better governance, not through e-governance, but through G-governance. That means geospatially tagged governance. Everything in the government should be geospatially tagged. Where are my assets? Where is my pothole? How's my transformer doing? We talked about the RAPDRP program. So the government assets need to be maintained in real time. So I think this is where we are headed. It is going to be a connected community, as we call it. It is not going to be islands of information, but all this information is going to be tied together going forward. Trimble is at the, I would say, at the forefront of this. As I said, we are no longer what I call as a GPS company. We call ourselves a workflow transformation company. And the reasons are that we have got the cutting edge technology in positioning, so we can accurately determine the position up to millimeter level accuracy. So if you take a bulldozer blade or an agriculture combine where you are spraying insecticides or pesticides, I can turn on and off the individual nozzle so that I don't overspray or underspray using geospatial technology. That is the level of accuracy we are talking about in terms of positioning. We have made lots of advances in connectivity, broadband, GPRS, 3G, 4G now, LTE, RFID, and so on and so forth. So really, there is a big improvement in connectivity paradigm. And then, of course, software. I talked about the apps. There are so many different apps that are being developed. Trimble is almost becoming a software company. So I think geospatial technology, as IT has evolved, is going to become more and more software oriented. So the hardware is just going to be an enabler, but it's going to be more about software and analytics. So just an example of how the geospatial works are becoming homogeneous. So first is collection. So we collect data using various technologies, such as your LIDAR, such as your total station, GNSS, drones, and so on. The next step is process that data, right? So that gives us a bigger funnel, if you will. Processing would include, our office software and, GIS database software and so on and so forth. The next one is, okay, once I process it, as the previous speaker was talking about, how do you do management of water resources? This is what modeling is all about. So from the process data, you determine using, 3D modeling or field inspection software, you really model the entire ecosystem. And then the final step is you analyze and you create decisions based on that model. Intelligent decisions, not haphazard. So if you want to plan a town, today, I just showed you the video of the Fall River in Massachusetts. One of the reasons why they did that is they want to plan how it should grow. And that's where the analysis comes. So we are part of the decision-making system of the customer. And this is across various industry verticals. Regardless of, how they are used, defense, government, agriculture, and so on. So if I give you an example, spatial data is relevant in every industry today. Just as IT has been, today it's going to be spatial data. They are becoming spatial data or using geospatial technology is going to become an integral part, as I will show in the next couple of slides. It's not in the periphery, but is at the core. So if you take agriculture, today we can actually, as I said, use the input very optimally, whether it is insecticides, pesticides, your tractor, your combine, everything very optimally. That's called precision agriculture, right? Because why precision? Because I can determine some activity up to millimeter level accuracy. Not only that, tomorrow I can tell the farmer how his yield has been in every square meter of his farm, right? I can fly a drone and figure out how the yield has been, how much water was used by every square meter. And by the way, what are the diseases that are prone in every square meter? So I'm providing analytics to him. If I go to a construction contractor, I can tell him how his project is going every day, every hour, so that he can plan better, not only for this project, but for the next one. Today, if they have to answer an RFP for a road building project, it is a lot of historical data. It is, not scientific, and it's a lot of rule of thumb, but we can make it scientific. So these are some of the examples. We can manage better resources in forestry using geospatial technology. So what does it mean for the geospatial professional? The geospatial professional is going to be an integral and a very important part of the entire decision-making process across a variety of industries, as I said. He or she is not going to be one person who just collects data using total station and hands it off to somebody to make use of the data. That person has to be involved in every aspect of the decision-making. So the geospatial data becomes embedded in the decision-making process of the industry rather than as an outlier. So this is a very important change that we are going to witness. So in fact, I encourage people who, when I talk in universities or something, saying don't do pure IT. Get some domain experience, get some domain expertise. And I obviously promote geospatial because I believe that regardless of whichever industry you go to, whether it is in mechanical, civil, electrical, or computer science, you are going to you need to know about geospatial technologies that are emerging because they are going to be very, very core to every industry. So for us as geospatial professionals, we need to get out of our comfort zone. What I mean by that is that we cannot say, I only create data and I give it to somebody else and they process it and they make the decisions. No. we as geospatial professionals have to be at the center of every decision-making process. That's why the move from the data collection to data management to modeling to analytics. So our job is not only to provide accurate, credible, timely data, but also we need to collaborate with all the stakeholders. So I think that's an important lesson for us as geospatial professionals. We are not at the periphery, we need to be at the center. To give you an example, a few days ago I met the logistics head of a large cement company who wanted to use Trimble, who has heard of Trimble Logistics. And he said that, listen, I need more than you providing me a dot on the map for where my truck is laden with lakhs and lakhs of rupees of cargo, right? I mean, cement bags, very expensive. He says that I need more than that. How can you help me? I need you to go into my ERP system and figure out where this truck is headed, when it is going to reach, who are all the dealers it's going to deliver to, and not only that, I need you to rationalize the distance. So every time the truck goes and in a particular route or in a particular in a particular time, I need the ERP to be updated. Today, nothing gets done. So I think the truck has traveled 1,000 kilometers, and I pay him based on that. But he has actually traveled only 800 or 900. And when I ask somebody to update it, they say, "Oh yeah, I will do that." But nobody wants to go manual and update it. I need this to be automated. So what does this mean? This is a very simple example I'm giving to illustrate that he wants us to embed ourselves in his ERP system, which is the most sacred part of a decision-making support system in a corporate, in a large cement industry. 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, nobody would have thought of that, right? So that's how things are evolving. We, as geospatial professionals, need to be at the center of the decision-making process rather than at the periphery. And so what does that mean for us? We need to enlarge the role that we play. We need to understand the industry. So similar to IT, we need to understand which industry we are playing in. Are we playing in the cement industry? Are we playing in the construction industry, agriculture, forestry, mining, right? So we need to develop some domain expertise. We need to enlarge our role from just data collection to data management and modeling. We need to collaborate across the entire workflow. So if a road is being built, it is not enough for us to say, okay, I will survey the area and give you the data. No, you need to understand, from feasibility onwards, how's the alignment is going to be, how's the alignment going to be done. Okay, survey that. Then you refine that and get into design. We need to understand how the road is going to be designed. And by the way, after design, how that data is going to be loaded onto machines that can work as per the design, right? And understand the construction process and understand the maintenance process. So it is an entire workflow that we need to understand. The earlier we think in 3D, but today it's all 2D and paper, right? I mean, today you go to any construction site, a lot of hard hats are running around with paper. That needs to change because we need to start thinking in terms of 3D. And today technology is available to map the inside, outside, from the air, from the space, from the land, to create a 3D model up to 5 centimeter or less accuracy. In fact, inside the building, it's even more accurate. I'll show you a video later on as to how virtual reality is, it's almost like becoming a video game, virtual reality, how it is going to transform the way, for example, buildings or structures are built. So we need to embrace the 3D model. We need to embrace new technologies, adopt new technologies. So the younger generation who is more technologically savvy has to come to the forefront and think of new ways in which geospatial technology can be used. Today, as I said, any 18 to 20-year-old wakes up one morning and creates an app. I want the same thing to be done with geospatial technology in mind. I want to be able to say that, there is a real explosion of geospatial-based apps. And, we need to make ourselves more valuable to the industry. Just as Trimble is becoming more valuable to cement, it's becoming more valuable to automotive OEMs, It's becoming more valuable to construction folks. It is becoming more valuable to agriculturalists. Because today we have technology that can look at a plant and determine the level of nitrogen fixation that is needed. Or we can work with IMD, Indian Meteorological Department, to use the signal delays in GPS to measure the water vapor locally more accurately. So we need to become more and more value added, because traditional survey is blasé now. I mean, everybody can do it. We need to add more value. So with that, I'm going to end with a video which shows
literally hundreds of enterprises can be represented.
I don't know whether
Job site. Today, the best way those companies have to interact with each other is paper drawings. But people aren't good at visualizing 3D.
Microsoft HoloLens is a head-mounted, self-contained computer that lets you see holograms in the real world.
You get the hologram with the flexibility that you do on quick iterations.
You'll see how we've brought in the courtyard that you suggested. You see that mouse go off the screen and into holographic space, and you're then interacting with the hologram with the mouse.
The thing that we can do for architects is really give them much higher confidence around decision making. One way we can do that is we can allow them to literally immerse themselves in the scene that they're building and see street side how the building's going to look.
Visualizing design data in the context of the real environment is a much better